It is June, which means it is Pride Month, where we celebrate everything that is queer and fabulous, and books are no different. So I have got for you today 10 fabulous book recommendations featuring LGBTQIA plus content that you absolutely must add to your TBR. Hello, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and I am really excited to be bringing you 10 books that I think will cover pretty much whatever reading taste you have, from graphic memoirs to cozy fantasy, historical fiction, even a little dash of literary horror in here for you. So whatever your reading tastes are, I have tried to cater to everybody. So I hope you enjoy the list. I would love to know as well how many of these you have read and enjoyed, so please let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you could give it a little thumbs up. It really helps my channel. And if you want to stick around, then the subscribe button is also there and would be greatly appreciated. So the first book on my list is a graphic novel called Waves by Ingrid Chabbert. This book broke my heart into a million, zillion, trillion pieces. This is about a lesbian couple who are trying to have a baby, and it's not super easy for them, and we see them go through a very traumatic stage of their lives. And I won't tell you much more than that because it's a super short novel. I would say if you have any triggers around conception and that sort of thing, then probably check the trigger warnings before you go in. But I think it's a super important story. It covers so many important topics, not the least of which what it's like to be in a same-sex couple trying to have a baby. So that is my first recommendation for you. Going on to something considerably lighter, I have a sci-fi for you now, and that is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. Now, if you have been to my channel before, you will know that I am a massive fan of Becky Chambers, and you can pick up any book by her and it will have tons and tons of representation for different genders and sexualities. She is a master of this. But I thought I would pick this one because it's one that I haven't talked about. It's one I read a long time ago. It is a short novella, standalone novella, but it is just beautifully constructed with an amazing cast of characters looking at space travel and what it would be like to explore space with a crew who is very, very diverse. And I adored it. Give that one a go. Moving to a book that has had a lot of positive praise, Detransition Baby by Torrey. This book was longlisted for the Women's Prize in 2021, I believe. I do have a solo review for this. I will leave it below. But this follows predominantly a transgender woman and her relationship with another transgendered woman who then decides to detransition back to a man. And he then impregnates his new girlfriend, and they create a sort of situation between the three of them. What this book did really, really well was it highlighted gender stereotypes for me, and the effect that that has particularly on the women within the trans community. And if you are less aware of some of the struggles that trans women go through, I think this is a really good place to start to open your eyes. That is what it certainly did for me, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. Torrey is a fabulous, fabulous writer. Now, the aforementioned literary horror. I'm not sure if I would really, deep in my soul, define this as horror, but Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield is certainly disturbing and unsettling throughout her novel. This looks again at a female-female relationship, and we see both women's perspectives. One goes on a mission in a deep sea underwater vessel and is gone for a significant amount of time, longer than she was expected to be, and her wife is left to sort of wonder what has happened to her and pick up the pieces afterwards when she returns very much not how she left. And there is some body horror in here, but there are a lot of just questions about humanity and what makes a person and what makes a relationship and what happens when one person is significantly changed during the course of that relationship. Julia Armfield has a very, very poetic style of writing, and this book has appealed to a lot of readers across the spectrum, people who usually read literary fiction and people who never read literary fiction. So I would really recommend giving this one a go because I adored it, and I am actually quite surprised that it hasn't been nominated for more awards because it is outstanding in its class. Next up, we have one of my absolute favourite books that I read last year, and that is Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. This is a sweeping saga of a woman's life as she tries to become a pilot in the 20s and 30s when that is not really a thing for women. And we see her journey throughout her life. And this was just so captivating from start to finish. We have a dual timeline where we see an actress playing our main female pilot in the current timeline. And this is just chock-a-block full of little Easter eggs that you pick up along the way. Shipstead doesn't waste a fact or a moment. They're all relevant when it comes to the end. And it is like putting together the most satisfying jigsaw puzzle when you reach the end. This is not a short book by any stretch of the imagination. This is well over 500 pages. But I was so invested from start to finish. And if you are in any way interested in historical fiction or just women kicking ass in general, then Great Circle is definitely one that you should head to. Next up, we have a graphic memoir, and this is one that I literally reviewed in my last wrap up, and that is Gender Queer by Maia Kobabe. Maia is a artist and writer and uses the pronouns EAM, which are completely new to me. And the way that they described their journey to get to that, and the struggles that they still go through now, I think was just beautifully done. This is an excellent place to start if you really want to start to understand the fantastic diversity within the LGBTQIA plus community, because it is more than just gay people and lesbians. There's just such an amazing spectrum of people out there who are so brave and so just fabulous, and Maia is no exception to that, and I adored this. The art was also wonderful, so highly recommend. We're going to go for a lighter touch now with The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is a cozy fantasy where we have our main protagonist go to inspect a magic school, and he sees that there's a lot of things wrong with the system that he is working in, and a group of children capture his heart. This is very much a found family vibe, but it made me cry with happiness at the end of it instead of devastation. But I adored every second of it. The characters really have a very special place in my heart. And so if you are looking for something a little lighter with some queer themes in it, then this is definitely the one for you. Next, we have a memoir, All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. I read this a few years ago and it blew my socks off. It is a coming of age story about a young boy coming to terms with his sexuality and what that means, and working out the best ways to express that and how to cope with that within his family dynamic. And it is one that I would absolutely recommend to everybody. It is so heartfelt, so well written, and I think George M. Johnson has a very impactful way of speaking to his readers that makes you understand very much where he's coming from and the unfairness of what it is to be Black and queer in America, and how he overcomes a lot of those struggles. Very, very inspirational young man. Highly recommend. Next up, we have another book that I read very, very recently, and that is Chain Gang All Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. This is dystopian, looking at what it would be like if the prison system were privatised and made a load of cash out of making prisoners fight each other. I say dystopian in the loosest terms because a lot of the things that happen in this book happen in real life. This is really looking at the exploitation of prisoners, particularly prisoners within minorities. So whether that is racial or sexual orientation or mental health, those prisoners are absolutely exploited. But the two main characters in this are a female-female romance, and they are just such great characters. two very strong females who we just love to see as the centre of the book. So I have also done a solo review for this one. I will also leave that below. The final book on my list is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemison. Now, the queer theme within this is definitely more of a subplot, but it is very important, and I feel like it will grow in importance as the series goes on. I am still to read the second in the series one day, but N.K. Jemison is a fantasy author. This book sort of bridges between fantasy and dystopian, I would say, but has the richest cast of characters, and I just adored it. N.K. Jemison has this beautiful way of weaving different narratives together, and unlike some fantasies, I think that this is one where you are invested in all of the different points of view as you go through. Everyone is interesting, everyone has got a very riveting story to tell, and yes, an exceptional writer, and I really, really must get to more of her work. I also have a solo review for that one, also linked below. So that is the 10 on my list. So as I said at the beginning, I would love to know how many of those 10 you have read. I would also love to know if there are any that you think absolutely must be added to my list, because I am always on the lookout for great diverse books. So happy Pride, everybody. I will leave my 5th season review here if you would like to check that out, and I'll see you all very soon with another one. Bye guys.